Hello friends. Have you ever wondered what happens when the quicksilver wit of a Gemini man collides with the deep, mysterious ocean of a Pisces woman? On the surface, they might seem like two souls from entirely different worlds, one ruled by air, thoughts, and words, the other by water, emotions, and dreams. Yet, when these two energies meet, sparks of curiosity fly, and a relationship is born that feels both magical and maddening at the same time. Let's dive deep into the fascinating dynamics of Gemini and Pisces in love. Chemistry. Initial attraction. When a Gemini man first encounters a Pisces woman, there is almost always a moment of pause, as if the universe itself takes a breath before pushing them toward one another. Gemini is not a man who pauses often. His life is usually a blur of conversations, adventures, and restless movement. But something about her slows him down. It is not just her appearance, though she often has a softness that catches the eye. It is the aura she radiates, that gentle and unexplainable quality of Pisces women, a presence that seems to belong as much to dreams as to reality. To Gemini, she is not simply another face in the crowd. She is a mystery, and he is a man who cannot resist mysteries. Her eyes seem to hold entire oceans, with depths he could spend a lifetime trying to explore. Her silence carries meaning, her gestures hold secrets, and her smile feels like a door to another world. To a Gemini man, who thrives on unraveling puzzles, she is irresistible from the very beginning because she is not easily read. Pisces, for her part, does not experience attraction the same way he does. Where Gemini is intellectual, quick, and curious, Pisces responds emotionally, even spiritually. She feels his energy before she even considers his words. His presence is like a rush of air entering a still room, stirring curtains that had long remained motionless. His liveliness awakens something in her, an eagerness, a spark of curiosity she doesn't always feel when meeting new people. She doesn't fall for his words alone, but the way his energy vibrates around her, the way he makes even ordinary moments feel charged with possibility. When Gemini speaks, he does so with a rhythm and wit that almost feels like music. He doesn't just communicate, he dances with words, bends them, plays with them. To Pisces, whose heart beats in metaphors and poetry, this is intoxicating. She feels that he is speaking not only to her mind but to her imagination. His humor feels effortless, his timing perfect, and his ability to see the world from angles she's never considered before makes her feel as though she is glimpsing reality through a kaleidoscope. And Gemini, he finds himself unexpectedly captivated by her laughter. He can make almost anyone laugh, he knows this, but her laughter feels different. It is softer, truer, as if it comes from the very core of her being. It makes him feel, for once, that his wit is not just entertaining, but meaningful. She doesn't laugh simply because he is clever. She laughs because she is moved, because she feels something when he speaks. For a man who often flits from one connection to the next, this is a revelation. Their attraction is not merely physical. Yes, there is an undeniable chemistry in the way their eyes linger, the way he leans in closer without realizing, the way her voice lowers when speaking to him. But beneath the surface, something far more complex is unfolding. Gemini is fascinated by Pisces' emotional depth, by the way she seems to see beyond masks, into the very soul. Most people take him at face value, amused by his charm, dazzled by his intellect, but rarely do they look beyond the surface. Pisces does. She sees not only the words he speaks, but the silences between them. She senses the boy within the man, the vulnerability behind the jokes. And for Gemini, this kind of recognition feels both thrilling and terrifying. Pisces, meanwhile, is equally enchanted, though in her own way. She often drifts through life feeling unseen, misunderstood, or too much for others, too sensitive, too emotional, too dreamy. Yet here is Gemini, who doesn't shy away from her depth but leans into it with curiosity. He asks questions, he listens, he makes her feel like her inner world is not only valid but fascinating. For Pisces, this is magnetic. Together, their chemistry creates a paradox. Gemini, the air sign, is light, quick, always moving. Pisces, the water sign, is deep, flowing, often still. Yet when air meets water, waves are born. Their initial attraction feels like this, an energy that ripples out, unpredictable and powerful. He brings her out of her shell, coaxing her into laughter, into spontaneity, into the excitement of the moment. She, in turn, grounds him in tenderness, offering a safe space where his restless energy can soften into something more intimate. And yet, hidden beneath this magnetism lies a question neither fully acknowledges at first. Can such opposite natures truly sustain each other? For now, it does not matter. In the glow of their first encounters, they are intoxicated by the differences. Gemini delights in Pisces' ability to make him feel deeply, something he does not often allow himself. Pisces is enchanted by Gemini's gift of showing her the brighter, lighter side of life. The contrast feels electric, as though they have discovered not just a lover but a teacher. In these early days, every gesture feels fated. The way his hand brushes hers and lingers for just a moment too long. The way she gazes at him when he speaks, her eyes shimmering with unspoken words. The way he leans into her silence, curious to know what thoughts hide there. Even their differences, which will later test them, feel thrilling now. To him, her mystery is a challenge. To her, his playfulness is salvation. But like all powerful beginnings, this spark carries both promise and danger. For Gemini, who thrives on novelty, there is always the risk of moving on once the mystery is solved. For Pisces, who craves deep emotional merging, there is always the risk of giving too much of herself too quickly. If they are not careful, their chemistry could burn too brightly, too fast, fading before it has the chance to mature. Still, in those first moments, neither thinks of endings. To Gemini, meeting Pisces feels like discovering a secret passage in a house he thought he knew inside and out. To Pisces, meeting Gemini feels like finding a sudden beam of sunlight breaking through heavy clouds. They are two souls from different worlds, yet in their attraction, they recognize something rare, a spark that could change both of them forever. And whether it lasts a season, a year, or a lifetime, that first meeting lingers in memory, etched in golden hues. For Gemini, it is the thrill of finding a muse. For Pisces, it is the joy of discovering a companion who can lift her spirit without drowning her heart. For both, it is the intoxicating chemistry of air meeting water, of laughter meeting tenderness, of curiosity meeting soul. Emotional dynamics. Here lies both the beauty and the challenge, the exact place where the Gemini man and the Pisces woman discover that love is not only about sparks and laughter but also about the deeper currents that move beneath the surface. For a Pisces woman, life is never shallow. She feels everything, not in fragments or quick impressions, but in waves that sweep through her entire being. Joy is not just a smile, it is a radiance that pours out of her eyes, a warmth that she gives away without even realizing it. Sadness is not just a passing cloud, it is an ocean storm that rattles her heart and leaves her needing shelter. Love, for her, is not a game of words or gestures. It is a merging of souls, a surrender, a willingness to dissolve into another's essence. And fear is not simply nervousness, it is a shadow that lingers in her spirit, whispering the possibility of loss or betrayal with almost psychic intensity. A Gemini man, by contrast, does not live in this constant state of immersion. His world is airy, quick, and built upon thoughts that shift as fast as the wind. He doesn't drown in feelings. He observes them, analyzes them, interprets them, and often lets them drift by like clouds. To him, emotions are fascinating, but they are not anchors. They are currents of experience that pass, teaching him something in the moment, and then fading into the background as his restless mind moves on to the next idea, the next adventure. This fundamental difference in emotional style is both their greatest source of attraction and their sharpest point of friction. To Pisces, Gemini can feel like a lifeline when she is consumed by her own sensitivity. He is light when she is heavy, laughter when she is somber, detachment when she is drowning. There are moments when his breezy approach saves her, reminding her that not every sadness needs to be carried forever, that not every wound needs to define her. She looks at him and sees a man who can make life lighter, easier, brighter. And in those moments, she is grateful beyond words. But there are other moments when this very lightness wounds her. When she is in pain and he makes a joke to ease the tension, she sometimes hears dismissal instead of comfort. When she reaches out in need of reassurance and he responds with logic instead of tenderness, she feels unseen, misunderstood, and alone in her vulnerability. To her, his emotional detachment can feel like coldness, even rejection. She may wonder, does he really love me? Or does he only love the idea of me, the light-hearted version, the dreamlike companion who doesn't demand too much of his heart? For Gemini, the experience is equally complex. He loves her softness, her ability to feel so deeply, her way of looking at him as though he is the only person in the world. It flatters him, but more than that, it awakens something inside him, a longing for intimacy he rarely allows himself to acknowledge. Yet her depth can also overwhelm him. Her mood swings, her sudden silences, her craving for constant reassurance, these can make him feel cornered, suffocated, as if the air he needs to breathe is being slowly stolen from him. He is a creature of freedom, after all. He thrives when he can move lightly, when he can laugh his way through life's storms. To be tethered too tightly to another's emotional tides can make him restless, even fearful. The push and pull between these two styles is inevitable. Pisces may accuse Gemini of being emotionally shallow, of skating on the surface when she longs for him to dive deep. Gemini may see Pisces as overly sensitive, prone to drowning in her feelings, and demanding a level of emotional attention he struggles to give consistently. Both will, at times, feel misunderstood. Both will, at times, wonder if the other is simply too different to truly connect. And yet, if they choose to work with, rather than against, these differences, something extraordinary happens. Pisces can teach Gemini the art of staying. She can show him that emotions are not something to escape, but something to experience fully, to honor, to share. With her, he learns that true intimacy requires more than laughter and charm. It requires vulnerability, patience, and presence. She becomes his guide into deeper waters, helping him see that love is not just about excitement but about connection that lasts through both joy and sorrow. In return, Gemini teaches Pisces the beauty of lightness. He reminds her that not every feeling has to consume her, that she can let go, breathe, laugh, and rise above the waves instead of always sinking into them. He becomes her reminder that life is not only about depth but also about air, play, and freedom. With him, she learns resilience. With him, she discovers that joy can be as profound as sorrow, and that laughter can be just as healing as tears. When these lessons are exchanged with love and respect, their relationship becomes a dance of balance. He pulls her up when she is sinking too low. She grounds him when he is floating too high. He teaches her how to step back from her emotions without betraying them. She teaches him how to step into his emotions without fear. Together, they discover that love can be both thoughtful and tender, both light-hearted and deeply soulful. But this harmony is not automatic, it requires intention. Gemini must resist the temptation to minimize her feelings or to escape when her emotions become too intense. He must learn to stay, to listen, to hold her hand through the storm rather than making a joke and walking away. Pisces, in turn, must resist the temptation to drown him in her need, to mistake his moments of detachment for abandonment, and to trust that his love exists even when his words are light. At its best, their emotional dynamic is a fusion of head and heart, air and water, logic and intuition. It is a relationship that challenges both to grow in ways they might never have imagined on their own. For Pisces, love with a Gemini man teaches her to rise, to breathe, to laugh at herself, and to see beauty in imperfection. For Gemini, love with a Pisces woman teaches him to feel, to commit, to soften, and to embrace the depth he often avoids. And so, the beauty of their emotional dynamics lies in the very contrast that threatens them. It is the challenge of reconciling difference that creates their most profound bond. They may never feel emotions in the same way, but if they are willing to honor the other's truth, they can create a love that is not only passionate but transformative, one that blends the wisdom of the mind with the wisdom of the heart. Long-term compatibility. In the long run, this pairing depends heavily on compromise, but more than that, it depends on the willingness of both partners to transform, to bend, and to meet each other halfway in a dance that is often as complicated as it is beautiful. The Gemini man and Pisces woman are not the couple who naturally glide into harmony without effort. Instead, they are the pair who must learn, with intention, to bridge their differences and transform them into points of strength. Their story is one of constant adjustment, small sacrifices, and gradual discoveries about what love truly demands when the honeymoon glow has faded and the daily rhythm of life sets in. For the Gemini man, long-term compatibility means reckoning with his restless spirit. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication and movement. He is the eternal student, the traveler, the seeker who craves variety and thrives on newness. This nature does not disappear with time. In fact, it often intensifies the longer he is with one person. His fear of stagnation grows when routines become too predictable. He might wake up one day and decide he wants to change careers, move cities, or throw himself into a new hobby simply because the old one feels stale. His energy is mercurial, unpredictable, and always searching for something different. To some partners, this constant reinvention can feel unstable, but to him, it is simply living in tune with his nature. Pisces, by contrast, is ruled by Neptune, the planet of dreams and illusion, and she is driven not by variety but by emotional connection. She does not want to live 1,000 different lives. She wants to live one deeply meaningful life, preferably with a partner who sees her soul and treasures it. She seeks security, not necessarily material, but emotional. She wants to feel anchored, cherished, and profoundly understood. In her heart, love is not about constant reinvention but about a shared journey into intimacy, tenderness, and stability. When she finds herself with a partner who is always moving, always shifting, always reaching for something new, she may sometimes feel abandoned, even if he has not physically left. To her, his absence is not measured in distance, but in emotional neglect. Over time, this difference can create significant strain. Pisces may begin to feel that Gemini is not fully present with her, that his curiosity about the world outweighs his commitment to their bond. She might sense him drifting away, lost in his projects, his friends, his restless explorations, and she may interpret this as lack of love. She longs for the reassurance of his attention, his words, his gestures, his consistency. Without it, she feels as though she is trying to hold water in her hands. No matter how tightly she clings, it slips through her fingers. Meanwhile, Gemini can begin to feel suffocated by Pisces' emotional intensity. What she calls devotion, he may interpret as clinginess. What she considers deep love, he may experience as heavy expectation. He values freedom, and when her need for reassurance feels constant, he may react by pulling away even further, creating the very distance that frightens her most. It is a cycle that can repeat endlessly if neither recognizes what is truly happening. And yet, this story does not end in inevitable failure. For when Gemini and Pisces choose each other with full commitment, something extraordinary unfolds. The very differences that once seemed insurmountable begin to complement one another, like two elements that, once balanced, create something entirely new. Gemini can bring Pisces into a world of adventure and growth she may never have experienced otherwise. His curiosity pushes her out of her dream world, encouraging her to explore new ideas, new places, new people. With him, she learns that life can be broader, more playful, more exciting than she imagined. She begins to live not only in her heart but also in the world outside of it, discovering strength and resilience she might not have found alone. Pisces, in turn, offers Gemini something he rarely admits he needs: a safe harbor. For all his wanderlust and restless spirit, there is a part of Gemini that longs for rest, for a place where he can lay down the constant burden of being witty, charming, and endlessly interesting. With Pisces, he finds that place. She does not demand constant performance, she offers unconditional acceptance. Her love is not based on how entertaining he is in the moment but on the deeper essence of who he is. This allows him to exhale, to stop running, to feel truly at home in another's heart. When they lean into these gifts, their relationship begins to feel like a balance between movement and stillness, between air and water, between dreaming and doing. Gemini discovers that variety does not always mean leaving, it can also mean exploring new dimensions within the same love. Pisces realizes that stability is not always about sameness. It can also be about trusting that her partner will always return, even if his spirit wanders. The key, of course, lies in compromise. Gemini must learn to reassure Pisces, to make her feel cherished even when his mind is elsewhere. Small gestures, an unexpected text, a gentle touch, a sincere, "I love you," can mean the world to her. These reminders anchor her, giving her the security she craves. Pisces, on the other hand, must learn to give Gemini space, to trust that his need for freedom is not a rejection of her but simply part of who he is. By loosening her grip, she allows him to fly, and in doing so, she increases the chances that he will return willingly, joyfully, and with love still in his heart. Long-term, this pairing thrives not when they erase their differences, but when they embrace them. Gemini's variety ensures their relationship never becomes stale, while Pisces' depth ensures it never becomes shallow. Together, they can create a love that is both adventurous and soulful, both playful and deeply meaningful. It may not always be easy. It may, in fact, often feel like work, but the reward is a partnership that grows richer with time. Ultimately, the long-term compatibility of a Gemini man and Pisces woman depends not on whether they are naturally alike, but on whether they are willing to grow. If Gemini can slow down enough to see the beauty in staying, and if Pisces can loosen her hold enough to see the beauty in freedom, their love has the potential not only to endure but to transform them both into fuller, wiser, and more loving versions of themselves. And in the end, that is the very essence of lasting love, not the absence of struggle, but the presence of two people who choose, again and again, to stay. Communication conflict resolution. If there is one area where Gemini shines, it is communication. Yet this very gift can become both a blessing and a stumbling block in his relationship with a Pisces woman. Words are his playground. He loves debates, clever turns of phrase, witty banter, and the kind of conversations that stretch into the night, not necessarily to arrive at answers but to delight in the exchange itself. To him, words are tools, bridges, even toys, something to shape, experiment with, and enjoy. He believes that if two people can talk about something openly and directly, then almost anything can be resolved. This is the confidence of an air sign, one who trusts the mind above the messiness of emotions. Pisces, however, lives in a different reality when it comes to communication. For her, it is less about logic and more about feeling. She speaks with her eyes, her silences, her sighs, and the subtleties of her tone. She communicates as much through what she does not say as through what she does. Her language is layered with intuition, with emotions that cannot always be put neatly into sentences. Sometimes she withdraws, not because she has nothing to say, but because she feels that words would not do justice to the complexity of her heart. She hopes, often unconsciously, that her partner will sense her mood, read between the lines, and understand her without needing her to explain. When conflict arises between Gemini and Pisces, this difference becomes glaringly clear. Gemini's instinct is to face the issue head-on, to pull it into the light of conversation and analyze it until it makes sense. He wants to solve the problem quickly, efficiently, rationally. To him, emotions can cloud judgment, so he tries to cut through them with logic, believing that clarity will soothe the storm. But for Pisces, emotions are not clouds to be dispelled. They are the storm itself, and storms must be felt before they can pass. She needs validation before resolution. She needs him to sit with her in the discomfort, to acknowledge her feelings, to reassure her that he sees and accepts her pain. Only then can she move toward solutions. If Gemini dismisses her feelings as irrational or overblown, she does not argue. Instead, she retreats. She turns inward, folds into herself, and creates emotional distance. She feels unheard, unseen, misunderstood, and this wounds her deeply. Her silence then becomes another layer of the conflict, one that Gemini often struggles to interpret. To him, silence feels like avoidance, and avoidance frustrates him because he wants to clear the air. He pushes for answers, for words, for explanation, but the more he pushes, the deeper she retreats. It is a spiral of miscommunication where neither truly hears the other. On the other hand, Pisces is not blameless in this dynamic. When hurt, she may turn to indirect methods of expressing her disappointment. She might sulk, use guilt, or drop hints instead of speaking plainly. To her, this is a way of protecting her vulnerability. If she does not spell it out, she cannot be outright rejected. But to Gemini, who thrives on directness, this feels manipulative, confusing, and even unfair. He becomes impatient, frustrated, and eventually avoidant, preferring to withdraw into his light-hearted distractions rather than wade through what feels to him like emotional murkiness. Yet, despite these challenges, there is enormous potential here, because what they lack in similarity, they make up for in the possibility of balance. Gemini can, if he chooses, learn to slow down. He can learn that not every conflict needs to be solved like a puzzle and that sometimes his role is not to fix but to feel. If he listens with empathy instead of immediately searching for solutions, he shows Pisces that her emotions matter, even when they don't make logical sense to him. This alone can transform the way she experiences conflict with him. She no longer feels dismissed, she feels validated. And once Pisces feels safe in her emotions, she becomes far more willing to engage in the rational discussions that Gemini craves. Pisces, in turn, can learn to be more direct. She can practice putting her feelings into words instead of expecting Gemini to guess them. This is difficult for her. It feels like exposing her soul, laying bare her heart, but it is also liberating. By speaking openly, she gives Gemini the clarity he needs to respond without frustration. She discovers that vulnerability, when expressed clearly, does not always lead to rejection. In fact, it often creates intimacy. When these shifts occur, conflicts between Gemini and Pisces transform. What was once a battlefield of misunderstanding becomes a place of growth. Gemini learns patience, empathy, and emotional presence. Pisces learns courage, clarity, and trust in communication. Together, they discover that conflict is not an enemy but an invitation, an opportunity to understand each other more deeply and to strengthen the bond between them. In the long run, this difference in communication styles can become one of their greatest strengths. Gemini's gift with words ensures that silence does not last forever, while Pisces' emotional wisdom ensures that words are not empty. He teaches her that dialogue can bring healing. She teaches him that silence can hold meaning. He shows her the power of clarity. She shows him the power of compassion. When they weave these lessons together, their conflicts no longer drive them apart but bring them closer, turning every disagreement into another layer of intimacy. Thus, the key is balance. Gemini must remember that the mind is not the only truth, and Pisces must remember that the heart cannot always speak without words. When they learn this, they discover a rhythm of communication that is uniquely theirs, part debate, part intuition, part silence, part laughter. And in this rhythm, they find the secret not only to resolving conflict but to building a love that deepens with every storm they weather together. Physical intimate connection. In the realm of physical intimacy, the Gemini man and the Pisces woman enter into a space where two very different worlds converge. For Gemini, intimacy is a playground of curiosity and delight. He is eager to explore, to experiment, to turn every encounter into a new adventure. For him, the act itself is not only about passion but also about discovery, an opportunity to laugh, to surprise, to push boundaries, and to invent new ways of connecting. He thrives on variety, and the bedroom becomes another stage for his imagination. Every kiss, every touch, every glance is a chance to spark excitement and keep the flame alive through novelty. Pisces, however, walks into intimacy with an entirely different vision. For her, it is not simply an act of the body but an act of the soul. She approaches physical love as a sacred exchange, something that transcends the physical plane and touches the spiritual. When she makes love, she does not simply want to feel pleasure. She wants to merge, to dissolve the boundaries between herself and her partner until they become one. Her passion is tied to her emotions, and her emotions are tied to her dreams. To her, intimacy is poetry written on skin, music played in silence, a prayer whispered in the language of touch. When these two energies merge, the result can be breathtaking. Gemini brings a spark that keeps things lively, a playfulness that prevents intimacy from becoming routine. He adds excitement, spontaneity, and the kind of fun that turns the bedroom into a place of joy rather than just obligation. Pisces responds with tenderness, depth, and romance that gives meaning to every playful act. Together, they create a connection that is both electric and soulful, lighthearted yet profound. It often feels like a dream, as if they are living in two realities at once, the airy world of Gemini's imagination and the watery world of Pisces' emotions. The first time they share intimacy, there is often a sense of wonder on both sides. Gemini marvels at how deeply Pisces invests herself, how every gesture seems filled with feeling, as though she is not merely touching his body but cradling his heart. He is used to fun and experimentation, but with her, even the simplest act carries gravity. For Pisces, the wonder lies in Gemini's ability to bring levity to a space where she sometimes becomes too serious. He makes her laugh in the middle of passion, playfully interrupts with a kiss on her nose or a teasing comment, reminding her that joy is just as important as depth. Together, they craft an intimacy that feels whole, equal parts laughter and longing, fun and fusion. But differences are inevitable, and they often show themselves once the initial enchantment begins to settle. Gemini's casual approach to intimacy, his tendency to see it as one of many enjoyable experiences in life, may leave Pisces feeling undervalued. She needs reassurance that the act is not just physical but emotional, not just a game but a declaration of love. If he becomes too detached, too playful without grounding the experience in affection, she may withdraw, feeling that her soul is untouched even if her body is satisfied. From Gemini's perspective, Pisces' intensity can at times feel heavy. Her desire for every encounter to be meaningful, for every moment to feel like a sacred union, can create pressure. He may fear that he cannot always meet her emotional expectations, that his desire for variety will be seen as lack of devotion. He may even retreat, worried that intimacy has become more about fulfilling her needs than enjoying the spontaneity he craves. The solution lies, as always, in balance. Gemini must learn that for Pisces, intimacy cannot be separated from love. He must reassure her, not just with words but with actions, that she is cherished, that every playful touch comes from a place of genuine affection. When he takes the time to look into her eyes, to hold her after, to whisper the words she longs to hear, he transforms his playful energy into something that also feels sacred. In doing so, he gives her the emotional anchoring she needs to surrender fully to his adventurous spirit. Pisces, on the other hand, must allow Gemini his freedom. She must accept that not every moment of intimacy has to feel like a soul-merging ritual. Sometimes it can be playful, light, silly, and still deeply meaningful. When she learns to see his curiosity not as a lack of depth but as his way of loving, she frees both of them from unnecessary tension. By embracing his spontaneity, she discovers new sides of herself, playful, daring, willing to step out of her comfort zone. And when she allows variety into their connection, she keeps him engaged without feeling as though she has compromised her own emotional needs. Over time, this balance can create a physical connection that is rare and extraordinary. Gemini ensures that their intimacy never grows stale, always bringing freshness and creativity, while Pisces ensures that it never becomes hollow, always grounding it in love and emotion. Together, they craft a relationship where sex is not just passion, but a language, sometimes playful, sometimes sacred, always meaningful. Ultimately, the physical and intimate connection between a Gemini man and a Pisces woman is not about choosing between fun and depth. It is about learning that both can coexist. He teaches her that laughter in bed is not disrespect but intimacy of another kind. She teaches him that passion, when rooted in the soul, transforms physical pleasure into something transcendent. In this shared discovery, they build a union that is as electric as it is tender, as adventurous as it is profound. And when they achieve this, their physical bond becomes not just a reflection of their love but one of its strongest pillars, carrying them through storms and reminding them of the magic they create when air and water finally learn to flow together. Shared values. Life goals. Gemini values freedom, curiosity, and intellectual growth above almost anything else. His life is an ever-turning wheel of discovery, propelled by his restless spirit and his unquenchable thirst for experience. He is the seeker, the wanderer, the eternal student of life, always scanning the horizon for the next idea, the next adventure, the next challenge to stimulate his mind. For him, stagnation is the enemy, routine a kind of slow death. His values reflect this. He treasures independence, versatility, and the ability to reinvent himself whenever the mood strikes. A life tied too tightly to obligations or repetition feels suffocating, for Gemini believes that existence is meant to be explored, not endured. Pisces, however, orients her life through a completely different compass. Guided by her heart, her intuition, and the ineffable pull of her dreams, she places compassion, closeness, and emotional fulfillment at the center of her values. Where Gemini races toward the new, Pisces lingers in the meaningful. Where he wants to expand outward, she wants to sink inward. Her greatest treasures are not the number of stamps in her passport or the variety of experiences she has collected, but the quality of her bonds, the tenderness of her relationships, and the depth of her spiritual growth. For her, life is not a chase but a flow, a current that leads her toward meaning, empathy, and connection. This difference can create a fault line in their long-term goals. For Gemini, the dream might be to live in 3 cities over the course of a decade, to pivot from one career to another, to spend months exploring foreign cultures, or to reinvent his lifestyle every few years in pursuit of novelty. For Pisces, the dream is often rooted in stability. A cozy home filled with warmth, perhaps children nurtured in a loving environment, evenings spent in intimacy rather than airports, weekends grounded in routine rather than packed with unpredictable spontaneity. Gemini dreams in motion, Pisces dreams in roots. It is in this clash of visions that they may feel, at times, utterly misaligned. Pisces may look at Gemini's hunger for freedom and feel insecure, as if his constant pursuit of newness means he will one day leave her behind. She wonders whether his eyes will ever stop wandering, whether his restless spirit will ever be content with the life they build together. Gemini, on the other hand, may look at Pisces' longing for stability and feel trapped, fearing that her desire for a steady life will cage his wings and drain the excitement from his days. Both, in their extremes, risk misunderstanding the other's intentions. Yet, within this apparent incompatibility lies profound potential. If they are willing to understand one another rather than judge, they may discover that their values, though different, are not opposites but complements. Pisces can ground Gemini, not by tethering him in chains, but by offering him a safe place to land when his explorations leave him weary. She can teach him that freedom does not always mean running. Sometimes freedom is knowing you have a home to return to. She offers belonging, continuity, and emotional richness, qualities that balance the flightiness he sometimes feels guilty about. Gemini, in turn, can inspire Pisces to stretch beyond her comfort zone. He can coax her into adventures she would never have dared on her own, nudging her toward travel, new experiences, and broader horizons. With him, she learns that stability does not have to mean stagnation, and that her dreams can include both the sanctuary of home and the thrill of the unknown. His curiosity sparks her imagination, and she begins to see that there is more to life than the safety of familiar shores. With him, she finds the courage to step into the world without losing the depth of her soul. When they weave their dreams together, they create a partnership that is both dynamic and emotionally rich. Their shared life may not look like the predictable, linear path of other couples. Instead, it might resemble a tapestry of contrasts, sometimes traveling, sometimes nesting, sometimes chasing newness, sometimes savoring the old. Together, they can build a life that honors both adventure and intimacy, both expansion and depth. This requires compromise, of course. Gemini must learn that freedom is not diminished by commitment, and Pisces must learn that security is not destroyed by change. If they respect each other's values, they can blend them into a shared vision. They may, for example, travel widely but always return to a cherished home base. They may reinvent careers but hold fast to the constancy of their relationship. They may live adventurously but infuse every adventure with the compassion and closeness Pisces holds dear. Ultimately, the shared values and life goals of a Gemini man and Pisces woman are not found in sameness but in synthesis. He brings the winds of curiosity that keep their life moving forward. She brings the waters of compassion that keep it anchored. He ensures they never stop learning, exploring, or dreaming. She ensures they never lose sight of love, meaning, or intimacy. Together, they learn that life is not about choosing between freedom and belonging, but about creating a life where both coexist. And in that delicate balance, between air and water, between movement and stillness, between wonder and warmth, they may find a shared path that is richer than anything they could have imagined alone. Final thoughts. So, are Gemini men and Pisces women truly compatible in love? The answer is neither a simple yes nor a definitive no. It is, instead, a story of paradoxes, contradictions, and the kind of mysterious chemistry that only opposites can create. This pairing is a dance of air and water, of thought and feeling, of laughter and longing. At times, they will find themselves colliding, baffled by the sheer difference in how they move through the world. There will be moments when Gemini cannot comprehend why Pisces feels so deeply, and moments when Pisces cannot understand why Gemini treats life with such lightness. They will frustrate each other, confuse each other, and occasionally question whether they are simply too different to survive the long haul. And yet, beneath the surface of those differences, there lies a unique magic that cannot be denied. When Gemini and Pisces come together, they create a union that is both rare and transformative. He brings light, humor, and fresh air to her depths, reminding her that life is not always meant to be heavy, that sometimes joy can be as profound as sorrow. She brings warmth, compassion, and soul to his airy world, reminding him that laughter means little without love, and that even the most brilliant ideas gain power only when they touch the heart. Together, they learn to see life not as either or but as both and, both playful and serious, both intellectual and emotional, both fleeting and eternal. What makes this connection so compelling is not perfection but growth. Gemini is constantly evolving, always chasing the next chapter, the next adventure, the next identity. Pisces, though anchored in emotion, also grows in her own way, through intuition, through dreams, through the expansion of her inner world. When these two paths intersect, they challenge one another to grow in directions they might never have chosen alone. Gemini learns patience, empathy, and the value of slowing down long enough to feel. Pisces learns courage, spontaneity, and the joy of stepping outside her comfort zone. In this way, their love becomes a mirror, but not the kind that reflects sameness. Instead, it reflects balance. There will be struggles, of course. Pisces will sometimes feel overlooked, aching for reassurance that Gemini's restless mind does not mean a restless heart. Gemini will sometimes feel smothered, longing for space when Pisces clings too tightly to certainty. But if they commit to understanding rather than resisting, these very struggles become their greatest teachers. Gemini must learn that feelings are not weaknesses to be avoided, but depths to be honored. Pisces must learn that freedom does not mean abandonment, but rather the capacity to return again and again with renewed devotion. The beauty of this relationship lies in its ability to bridge two worlds. Gemini lives in the sky, among the winds of thought and the shifting clouds of curiosity. Pisces lives in the sea, among the currents of emotion and the tides of intuition. Alone, each risks imbalance. Gemini may drift endlessly without grounding, Pisces may drown in her own depths without air. Together, however, they create a system where air moves water, and water nourishes air. Their love becomes a rare ecosystem, fragile yet beautiful, requiring constant care but offering breathtaking rewards. Ultimately, the compatibility of Gemini men and Pisces women is not about finding ease, it is about finding meaning. It is not about eliminating conflict, it is about transforming conflict into connection. It is not about being identical, it is about being complementary. Love, after all, is not the pursuit of perfection, but the pursuit of understanding. And in that pursuit, this pairing has the potential to uncover truths about themselves, about each other, and about love itself. So, can they make it work? Absolutely, if they are willing. If Gemini is ready to slow down and let himself feel. and if Pisces is ready to loosen her grip and let herself fly, they can create a love that transcends their differences. If they choose respect over resentment, curiosity over judgment, and growth over stagnation, their bond becomes more than just romance, it becomes transformation. Perhaps this is the ultimate lesson of Gemini and Pisces, that love is not about finding someone who mirrors you, but someone who balances you. It is about finding a partner who challenges you to stretch, who pushes you into the unfamiliar, who teaches you to see the world through a different lens. Gemini teaches Pisces that laughter can be healing, that joy can be profound, that curiosity is a kind of love in itself. Pisces teaches Gemini that depth gives life meaning, that vulnerability is strength, and that the heart has wisdom the mind alone cannot touch. And so, their story is not about perfection. It is about growth, about discovery, about the kind of alchemy that only happens when air meets water, when thought meets feeling, when lightness meets depth. Their love is a rare blend of dream and reality, laughter and longing, freedom and devotion. And if they choose to walk this path together, they may discover that the very differences that once divided them are the same ones that make their love unforgettable.